So, welcome back. Once again, there is no time to game, except there is time to game this week. I found myself a little bit too obsessed, honestly. I didn't think, I know that sounds like very cliche, YouTuber, clickbait, whatever, but I really did not think I would find myself being someone that just was really into puzzle games. Because, like, if you take my background, like, I love platformers, action games, stuff like that. So, when I had something shuffle onto like a Game Boy Color game this week, I'm like, okay, I get it. There's tons of great platformers I've been meaning to try on there. But instead, I got something called Little Magic for the Game Boy Color. And I'll be honest, like, there was no way in heck I was ever going to run into this aside from like just straight up this type of format. Because I believe it's honestly a game that only came out in Japan. At the very least, trying to navigate all the menus and stuff like that. Like, there's cutscenes. There's a story for sure. I mean, there's a story mode, but I just honestly like could not figure it out. And I kept clicking on menus, trying to see if there was an English translation, but I guess not. So unless it gets patched, just know that this is Japanese only, but you don't really need, if I could figure out how to navigate it without needing a translation, you should be able to too. And I think it's a pretty straightforward story anyways, but the whole point of the game pretty much is that it's so simple. And I love games that like are very just like it's just one strong premise at its core is that you're trying to get this little heart. It's like Chip's Challenge almost, if you've ever played that, but you're trying to get this heart into a heart-shaped hole. And once you've accomplished that, you can take the exit out of the stage. And so this heart, honestly, you kind of want to treat it like a very tough balloon. Like there's tons of obstacles and stuff like that will, pop your heart. So as soon as the heart is destroyed or you're unable to budget, like the stage is over pretty much and you have to restart it, which luckily select in this game is just a straight up reset for the stage button. Luckily too is that whenever you reset, the game doesn't ask much of you. Like it's, you get a game over, you can just continue right where you were left off. And so when I saw basically how it worked, I was kind of like, cool, okay, like this seems simple enough. The first few stages are real strong. They introduce you to, the entire concept, all of your moveset, basically what like kind of extra things you can do with your moveset. Never changes, it's a Game Boy game. So it's always like press A for this, press B for this. And you learn like little things during the first couple of stages, like you can't turn around in place. You can blow these little bubbles, which is like the main mechanic that you can push around, and they're essentially on this type of timer. And so you can strategize because you don't have a limit to how many bubbles you can have on the screen at once, just the amount of time it takes for them to pop. Different surfaces will require different strategies for like what direction / what, like how much time you get before they pop. You can't walk on certain tiles. Hopefully my footage shows this too, like just new obstacles to get introduced. At some point you run into like enemies that can straight up kill you, and just like tiles that will slow you down. And so what I love and what I meant about the core concept is that part never changes. You never get like a power up or new controls or anything like that. It's just straight up this game finds new ways to just I guess iterate on that and really like get your head scratching onto like how is it possible to get the heart way over there? How is it possible to like clear this fast enough? And I'll be honest, like I was kind of a little bit judgmental at first because I thought like based on how it looks, like this would be like a fun meme game or something that I could put up onto the channel, and we'll have a good laugh and move on from it. And next week's game, please. But I honestly found myself really addicted to it. I'm not gonna lie. I will tell you this straight out because it's a weekly challenge. That's part of the thing. Can we beat this inside of a week's time? I'll tell you straight up, no, we did not get through the game this week. And partly it is because I think I underestimated it a little bit. Like some of those levels in the later part of the story mode, they get pretty challenging. Like you get real brain scratchers, and since I try to play these like in small bursts, sometimes I'd get stuck on a specific level for like hours and not really know how to advance. And so part of it was that, but the other part was that I just was genuinely like really into it, honestly. And I know it's got this cutesy art style, but the gameplay loop, like the little, like trying to figure out how each level works, how you're going to figure out like how to get everything in place and how to get everything like just going into your favor. Like it always has like, at least the really difficult levels anyways, always had this feeling of like, I don't know how I'm going to figure this part out. And just the satisfaction of like, again, the controls never change, the mechanics never change, but you get to figure out how to get to the end. And so I got really just like sucked into it, and I didn't, keep in mind that I had a week's deadline to beat this. And what didn't help too is that I lost my progress at one point, which I figured out what's up. If you are using Next UI or MinUI, anything that has like a game switcher built into it, like when you get to switch between different games, don't rely on the the auto save state that will load for when you switch between games. I would recommend manually saving a save state every time, because I came back to this. I think I was already like, I don't know how many levels there are, but I'm assuming in like the last half of the game, and I reset basically like the day before. Like I was just crunching, trying to get this done the day before, and no dice. But did I beat it? No, and that's why. And I think I could in a week's time, not knowing what I know. But since this is just me talking about the game, I think you hopefully get the idea of, between me explaining it and just getting into it and talking about it, like, did I like this game overall, and do I think it's a good experience to take on the go? 100,000%. And that's kind of a given. It's Game Boy Color games are designed for that. I again didn't know I was this into puzzle games. I think I just assumed that, my mom is really into like jigsaw puzzles. When it comes to video games, she loves like Peggle, Candy Crush, and stuff like that. And I mean, even for me, like it's not a puzzle game, but I do like things like Tetris and stuff like that. So this really brought me back to things like Chip's Challenge, which I mentioned earlier, and that's actually something that I played in my childhood, which I thought was solid. Like I did have a good time with it. I really like, I think I mentioned it before, I have other games that I'll play, or at least try to play, in addition to managing my weekly game for this series. And I honestly found myself most of the week playing Little Magic because I just really wanted to just scratch that itch of figuring it out. This is honestly, it must be what it feels like when you see like, your uncle handling the word cross puzzle at the table, or like, it just, I don't know, like what's a good comparison for this type of game? I hope you understand what I'm saying anyways, is that great game to play in short bursts, really addictive gameplay loop. You won't understand the story unless you know Japanese, and that's perfectly fine. You'll be okay navigating it. And I know I try to talk about like the general vibe of it and stuff like that too. It's really cute. It's a Game Boy game, so it's not like I'm saying like, just, you're gonna be listening to the soundtrack and stuff on Spotify, and the graphics are out of this world, but they're charming. Everything's like, it has that old school like tile based type of graphical style. Everything's like, I guess the music could get pretty grating after a while, because I mean the tracks do repeat. But overall, I think if you're a fan of puzzle games, if you like that old school RPG, like classic Game Boy aesthetic, this will be right up your alley. You may get tired of the music after a while, but that's just because like you'll be spending your time on a lot more of the difficult stages just trying to figure it out. And I'm trying to think of anything else I'm missing. This might come off as a little bit of a quick review, but I really had a great time with Little Magic. I honestly, like, if it weren't for this series, if I weren't balancing a couple of things that I want to play already, like this might have dethroned my Cave Noir addiction, which is another Game Boy game. It's not a puzzle game. It's a dungeon crawler. It has more similar, I think, with like like a what do they call them, like a dungeon crawler or something like a rogue. Oh man, I'm gonna look silly later on in the video. But it's got more in common with something like that than like a traditional puzzle game. But I've got a lot on my plate already, so there's gonna be no space for Little Magic right now, unfortunately. But if I ever need that itch scratched, I'm perfectly happy coming back to this. So I guess let me just summarize it all real quick. Class, let's see. Would I recommend this to you as a thing to take on the go, as a great game? 100%. I ended up addicted to this, and I think if you like what I was describing with the puzzle elements and everything, this will be right up your alley. And it's really easy to like just like between the fact that you can just reset every stage if you need to, between the fact that each stage is technically really short, you know, like once you figure out the solution, you can usually get back to where you were. I honestly didn't even have to use save states. I would just save state to save the stage that I was on, but I didn't feel the need to like, you know, have to like save state halfway through a puzzle or something like that. But in terms of like the style of game it was, in terms of how the game looked like, you know, going into it, like I was pretty pleasantly surprised. And yeah, I would hardly recommend heartily. Ah, man, I was trying to do a pun right there, but didn't quite work out. Anyways, yeah, I'd recommend this game. This was a lot of fun. Really great game. Like this is what handheld gaming is all about, you know? And just like me, don't judge a book by its cover. Like if you really want that type of experience, you know, if you want action, if you want adventure, if you want like a story, look elsewhere. Or maybe the story's great. I don't know. But if you want something to scratch that puzzler itch, I was just 10 out of 10, honestly. Because for a puzzle game like this was a real treat for sure. But other than that, I think that'll do it for this week's review. Let me go ahead and actually do something different. I will actually like try to find next week's game live on camera. I think that'll be a little bit more exciting. So let's see here. You get the gist of it. It's picked at random, and we get, it's taking its time, Custom Robo. Interesting. I think that's a Game Boy Advance game. Actually, no, never mind. This is a Nintendo 64 game. So we'll see how that goes. We're going to dive right into that this coming week. And first N64 game could be pretty interesting. Again, usually with the console stuff, it gets a little trickier. So we'll see if we can beat it within one game. I mean, I'm on a losing streak here technically. So I'm hoping I can beat it within a week's time, or we'll see how that goes. But other than that, if you watched up to this point, I appreciate you. You're very welcome to like and subscribe. And if you've played anything with the similar vibe, like especially on the Game Boy, it's like one of those handheld consoles, please send me your recommendations, because I love this kind of stuff. And I'm really happy I got to play something that only came out in Japan, because I don't think I would have encountered this by normal means otherwise. Very old game, but again, things with such a simple core concept, it's just, I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff. Other than that, I think that's about everything I got to say about Little Magic. I'll catch you guys next week. So you can say we bumped it to Sundays now when we drop these. So catch you in about a week's time, and we'll see what we get up to in the meantime.